I was standing in my own kitchen, in the home I designed with my own hands, holding a serving tray I had arranged with my own cooking, when my husband looked at Chief Mrs. Temilade Ogunleye and said, "Ah, this is the girl who helps us around the house, very reliable." He smiled when he said it. That is the part I cannot forget. He smiled. The girl who helps around the house. I was wearing my wedding ring. Chief Mrs. Ogunleye did not respond immediately. She studied me for a moment, her expression unreadable, then turned back to Olumide and said, "Lovely home you have here." That was it. But something shifted in the air between us, something I did not fully understand until much later that evening. Let me take you back, because what happened in those few minutes did not start in that moment. It started 2 years ago, when I was still foolish enough to believe that love was enough. If you've ever been made invisible by the person who promised to see you first, you understand what's coming. And if that resonates, subscribe to Stories by Abby, because we tell the stories nobody else wants to tell. Now, let me take you back. I met Olumide at a friend's birthday dinner somewhere in Ikeja. He was sharp-jawed, well-spoken, and had this way of making you feel like the most interesting person in any room. I was 26, fresh out of my master's program in architecture at the University of Lagos, and had just been offered a junior position at one of the most respected firms in the city. I was not thinking about men, but Yewande was persistent in a way that felt like warmth rather than pressure. He told me he worked in real estate development. He told me he was ambitious. He told me I was brilliant and that he wanted a woman who was brilliant. Within 4 months, we were married in a quiet ceremony at a registry in Surulere. No church, no fanfare. He said he wanted to save the money for something bigger. My mother did not attend the wedding. She called me the night before and said, "That man talks too much about himself and too little about you. A man who does not see you before he marries you will not see you after." I laughed it off. I was 26 and in love, which is just another way of saying I was 26 and stupid. 3 months after the wedding, the firm I was supposed to join went through a brutal restructuring. My offer was deferred indefinitely. I remember sitting on the floor of the bedroom with my phone still in my hand, my hands shaking, not from sadness, but from the sudden feeling of the ground disappearing beneath me. I had spent 6 years building towards this moment, and it vanished in one paragraph of corporate language. Olumide found me on the floor of the bedroom with my phone still in my hand. He sat next to me and said, "Don't worry, I'll handle things. Focus on the house. Focus on us. Your career will come back." I believed him, so I did what he asked. I focused on the house. But looking back, that was the moment the erasure began. I just couldn't see it yet. I redesigned our apartment, every corner, every fixture, every flow of light, because that was how my mind worked. I could not help it. I drew floor plans on napkins at dinner. I sketched furniture placement at 2 in the morning while Olumide slept beside me, snoring softly, undisturbed by the scratch of my pencil. He noticed, but not in the way I needed him to. "That's nice, babe," he would say, glancing at my sketches without really looking. "You know you don't have to do all this, right? I can hire someone." I told myself he was just being practical. I told myself that a man who provides does not need to understand every detail of what makes his wife feel alive. What I did not tell myself, what I actively avoided admitting, was that Olumide had a way of making my work feel small without ever directly insulting it. He never said my designs were bad. He just never said they were good. Not once, in 2 years. 8 months into the marriage, I started taking small freelance jobs. A friend from university needed a kitchen redesigned. A former classmate wanted a layout for her boutique in Yaba. I charged little. I used a pseudonym, YA Designs, because I did not want anyone to think I was desperate. The initials stood for Yewande Alabi, but no one knew that, no one except me. The work grew slowly, quietly, like roots spreading underground. I designed a small cafe in Ogba, then a rooftop lounge in Victoria Island, then a proposed community arts center that I submitted to Design West Africa magazine on a whim, half expecting them to throw it in the trash. Have you ever built something in secret because the person closest to you made you feel like it wasn't worth showing? Keep that feeling in mind, because what happened next changed everything. They did not throw it in the trash. They featured it as their cover story, anonymous except for the name YA Designs. The design went viral in architecture circles. Clean lines, bold use of laterite and bamboo, a building that looked like it was breathing with the land rather than sitting on top of it. I cried when I saw it published, not because of the recognition, but because for the first time in 2 years, I felt like myself again. The woman who had spent 6 years training, who had been offered that junior position, who had been told by every professor that she had something rare, she was still in there, buried under 2 years of silence, but alive. Olumide saw the magazine on the coffee table. He flipped through it, stopped on the spread and said, "This is nice. Who did this?" I hesitated. Something in me wanted to say, "I did." But the way he said it, casual, dismissive, like he was commenting on the weather, made the words stick in my throat. "They don't say. It's anonymous," I said. He shrugged and put the magazine down. That was the end of it. He did not know. He did not know that the woman he called his wife was the same person being praised in the magazine he had just flipped past without a second thought. And I did not tell him. I think part of me was afraid that if I told him and he still didn't care, that would break something I could not repair. So I kept drawing. I kept designing. I kept existing in 2 worlds, the one in which I was Olumide's wife and the one in which I was YA Designs, building something no one could take from me. 6 months before the dinner, everything changed at Olumide's office. His firm, Adebayo and Associates, was being considered for a major partnership with Ogunleye Holdings, one of the largest property development corporations in West Africa. The deal would mean a senior partnership for Olumide, a significant salary increase, and the kind of prestige he had been chasing since long before I met him. He came home that night and grabbed my face with both hands. His eyes were bright in a way I had not seen since our early dating days. "Yewande, this is it. This is the one. If I get this, everything changes for us. I'll be somebody, real somebody." I was happy for him, truly, but I also noticed something shift in how he carried himself after that announcement. He started mentioning names I had never heard before. Directors, board members, competitors. He started dressing differently. Sharper suits, more expensive cologne, a new watch that I later learned cost more than 3 months of our rent. And he started coming home later, sometimes past midnight, with vague explanations about strategy meetings and client dinners. I noticed, but I had trained myself not to notice things in this house. I had learned that asking questions about Olumide's life outside these walls rarely led to answers that made me feel safe. So I said nothing, and the distance between us grew, like a crack in a wall. Invisible from a distance, structural up close. Then, one evening, his colleague Dapo came by to drop off some documents. I answered the door in a simple dress, my reading glasses still on because I had been sketching when the bell rang. Dapo looked at me with an expression I could not read. Confusion layered over something that might have been embarrassment. "You're Olumide's Yewande, right? His cousin." I stared at him. "I'm his wife." Dapo's face went through something quick. Surprise, then confusion, then a forced smile that did not reach his eyes. "Oh, right. He doesn't really talk about. He mentioned you, of course, just not much." After Dapo left, I sat on the couch for a long time. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator I had positioned behind a wooden screen because I hated the way appliances broke the visual flow of a room. I sat there and let the truth settle into my bones. Olumide did not talk about me at work. He did not talk about me at all. I was a secret he kept inside the apartment I had designed. I confronted him that night. He was unbuttoning his shirt in the bedroom, and I stood in the doorway and said, "Your colleague did not know I was your wife." He paused. Then, without turning around, It's not like that. The partnership is very competitive. Some of the senior partners think married men are less committed, less hungry. I just didn't want to give anyone a reason to doubt me. So you hide me. I'm not hiding you. I'm protecting our future. It sounded reasonable. That was the worst part. It sounded like something a good husband would say. So I swallowed it, like I had been swallowing every small erasure for 2 years, and I told myself it would get better. It did not get better. 3 weeks before the dinner, Olumide told me that Chief Mrs. Temilade Ogunleye herself, the founder and CEO of Ogunleye Holdings, a woman whose name appeared on half the major developments in Lagos, would be visiting and had agreed to a private dinner at our apartment. She wants to see how the senior candidates live, he said, pacing the living room. She's traditional like that. She believes a man's home reflects his character. This dinner could make or break everything. He paused and looked around the apartment. Really looked, maybe for the first time in months. The place looks good, he said, as if it had arranged itself. I did not correct him. I just said, "What do you want me to cook?" He told me to make something impressive, but not too flashy, something that said we were refined without trying too hard. I spent 2 days planning the menu. Ofel nubu with smoked fish and goat meat, catfish pepper soup as a starter, and coconut tart for dessert. I went to the market in Oshode myself, picked the freshest ingredients, and spent the entire day before the dinner cooking. The irony was not lost on me even then. I was preparing a meal for a woman who could change my husband's entire future, a future built on the lie that I did not exist in it. The woman who designed every square foot of the space where this dinner would be taking place was being asked to cook in it and stay out of sight. But I did it anyway, because I had been doing it for 2 years, and I had not yet found the strength to stop. The evening arrived. I was in the kitchen when the doorbell rang. I heard Olumide greet Chief Mrs. Ogunleye. Her voice was calm, measured, the kind of voice that belonged to someone who had built an empire from nothing and knew exactly what she was worth. Not loud, not aggressive, just setting. I finished plating the pepper soup, arranged the garnish just so, wiped the rim of the bowl, and walked into the living room carrying the tray. That was when Olumide saw me, and I watched his face do something terrible. It flickered. Panic. Quick and raw, like a flame in wind. Then he smiled and turned to Chief Mrs. Ogunleye. "Ah, this is the girl who helps us around the house. Very reliable." I stood there, the tray in my hands, my wedding ring catching the light from the pendant I had hung above the dining table, positioned at exactly the right height to create a warm pool of light without glaring in anyone's eyes. Chief Mrs. Ogunleye looked at me, then at Olumide, then back at me. Her expression gave away nothing. "Lovely home you have here," she said. I went back to the kitchen. I did not drop the tray. I did not cry. I placed it on the counter with steady hands because I had spent 2 years practicing steadiness in a house that gave me no other option. I stood there for a moment, gripping the edge of the counter, breathing slowly, listening to the muffled sound of their conversation from the living room. From the kitchen, I could hear fragments. Olumide was talking about property values, market trends, his vision for the partnership. Chief Mrs. Ogunleye responded with short, polite sounds. Interesting, I see. She was not impressed. I could hear it in her flatness of her responses, the way a person sounds when they are being polite, but they have already made up their mind about something. Then she said something that made the kitchen go completely silent in my ears. Who designed this space? The floor, the lighting, the material choices. This is not interior decoration. This is architecture. Olumide laughed. I could hear the performative ease in it. I have a good eye. I pick things up. A gauze. Long enough for me to count my heartbeat 4 times. Then Chief Mrs. Ogunleye said, "May I use your restroom?" He directed her down the hallway, but she did not go to the restroom. I know this because I heard her footsteps stop.
They stopped right outside the small study I used as my workspace, the room Olumide always told me to keep closed when guests came because it looked too messy. The door was not fully shut. I had been in a rush.
I heard nothing for what felt like an eternity. Then her footsteps again, returning to the living room. Her voice, when she spoke, had changed. It was no longer polite. It was surgical. Olumide, I want to see the woman who prepared this meal. Please, call her. He heard him hesitate. Madam, she's just the... Call her. He came to the kitchen doorway. His eyes were tight. His jaw was set. Babe, she wants to meet you. Just play along, okay? Don't say anything complicated. I wiped my hands on a cloth, walked into the living room, stood in front of Chief Mrs. Ogunlaye with the same steadiness I had carried back from the kitchen. She looked at me for a long time, not at my clothes or my posture, at my face, as if she were reading something written beneath the skin. Then she reached into her handbag and pulled out a folded magazine. She opened it to a page and held it up. It was a spread from Design West Africa, the cover story featuring YA Designs, the community arts center that went viral. Clean lines, bold use of laterite and bamboo, a building that looked like it was breathing. My design. I have been trying to find this person for 8 months, she said. Do you know who YA Designs is? Before I could speak, Olumide jumped in. No, madam, I think it's some firm in South Africa. Sit down, Olumide. He sat. Chief Mrs. Ogunlaye turned to me. I was in your study. I saw the sketches on the desk, the same hand, the same style, the same obsession with light and space that I see in this magazine and in this living room. She pointed at the walls around us. This apartment was not designed by a man with a good eye. It was designed by someone who thinks in structures, someone trained, someone brilliant. The room was so quiet I could hear the clock in the hallway ticking against the wall I had chosen specifically to catch the afternoon breeze. Your name, she said to me. Your real name. I looked at Olumide. He was very still. His jaw was tight. His eyes were pleading, not for forgiveness, but for silence. He was begging me to disappear one more time. I looked back at Chief Mrs. Ogunlaye. Yewande Alabi. She nodded slowly. Then she turned to Olumide, and what she said next dismantled him in a way I had never seen anyone do. The partnership your firm is pursuing with Ogunlaye Holdings, do you know why we created it? He said nothing. We created it as a search, a way to identify emerging architectural talent in Lagos. The partnership was never about your firm's capabilities. It was about finding the person behind YA Designs and bringing them into our company as a lead architect. She let the silence hold for a moment. I came to this dinner tonight because your firm told me you were one of their brightest. I thought maybe you could lead me to the designer. I did not expect the designer to be standing in your kitchen, being introduced as the help. Olumide's face drained of color. Madam, I can explain. You don't need to. You told your colleagues you were unmarried because you thought it made you look more committed. You hid your wife because you were ashamed of what people would think. Not that she existed, but that she might be more than you wanted her to be. She stood up, adjusting her wrapper with calm, deliberate movements. I have spent 30 years building Ogunlaye Holdings. I have worked with architects across 3 continents. I know the difference between a man who carries his home and a man who hides from it. She looked at me. Yewande, my office will contact you on Monday. Come with your portfolio. Come as yourself, not as anyone's maid. She walked to the door. Olumide did not stand. He sat on the couch like a man whose skeleton had been removed. When the door closed behind her, the apartment felt enormous and empty. The pendant light I had hung over the dining table cast its warm pool over the untouched food, the scattered documents, the 2 of us sitting in the wreckage of a lie. I started clearing the table. Olumide caught my wrist. Yewande, please, I'm sorry. I panicked. I didn't think.
You didn't think, I repeated. That is correct. You did not think. You have never thought about me. Not once. Not when you told your office I did not exist. Not when you dismissed my work as little drawings. Not when you looked at the most important guest of your life and called me the girl who helps around the house. I was trying to protect. You are trying to protect yourself. I pulled my wrist free. You are afraid that if she saw me, really saw me, she would realize what you have been trying so hard not to admit, that I am not the supporting character in your story. I am the one with the talent, the one with the vision, the one this entire evening was actually about. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. His lips moved, but there were no words left, just the sound of a man realizing he had built his entire case on sand. I went to the study. I picked up my sketches, my laptop, my small folder of completed freelance projects. I put them in a bag. When I walked back through the living room, Olumide was still on the couch, staring at the wall I had designed, with the exact angle of light I had calculated to make the room feel warm in the evening. Yewande, where are you going? Away from a house where I am a guest in my own life. I slept at my friend Bimpe's place that night. I did not cry until I was under her blanket, and even then, I cried quietly, not because I had lost something, but because I had just realized how much I had given away trying to make a man feel big enough to love me. On Monday, Ogulaye Holdings called. I went to the interview with my portfolio under my arm and 2 years of quiet, secret work to show for myself. Chief Mrs. Ogulaye was different in her office, warmer but no less sharp. She flipped through my sketches page by page, asking questions that told me she understood architecture the way I did, not as a profession, but as a way of seeing the world. 3 months later, I was announced as the lead architect for Ogulaye's new community development project, the same one YA Designs had been anonymously shortlisted for.
Olumide's firm did not get the partnership. I heard through Dapo that Olumide was asked to step down from his position a week after the dinner. The official reason was restructuring. The unofficial reason traveled faster. I did not go back to the apartment. Not for my things, not for closure, not for anything. Bimpe helped me pack while Olumide was at work. He texted me 17 times that evening. I read none of them. People ask me if I forgive him. I don't know what that word means in a situation like this. He did not hit me. He did not cheat on me. He did something quieter and in some ways worse. He looked at the woman he married and decided she was not worth claiming. Not in front of his colleagues, not in front of his future, not in front of the one person who could have changed both our lives. He chose to make me small because my smallness was the only way he could feel large. But here's what I learned. Standing in that kitchen with a serving tray and a lie hanging in the air. You do not need someone to see you for you to be visible. You do not need to be introduced for your work to speak. And you do not need a man's permission to walk into the room you were always meant to occupy. Chief Mrs. Ogulaye saw me in 30 seconds. My husband did not see me in 2 years. That says everything about him and nothing about me. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who has been made to feel small in a space they built. Like this video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Stories by Abby for more stories that stay with you long after the last word.